Housing cooperative movements in Europe emerged in the mid-19th century, largely as a response to poor housing conditions in the context of rapid urbanisation and industrialisation. They were inspired by figures such as the Welsh utopian socialist Robert Owen and German social reformer Victor Emil Huber. Robert Owen, a Welsh textile manufacturer, is commonly referred to as the father of cooperatives. Having made great strides in improving the working conditions of his employees at a mill in New Lanark in Scotland in the early 1800s, New Lanark had the first infant school in the world, a creche for working mothers, free medical care, and an education system for children, alongside evening classes for adults. Unusually for the time, children under 10 were not allowed to work in the mill. Owen also opened the Institute for the Formation of Character, effectively a community education centre for his workers. However, it was not until the founding of the Rochdale Society of Equitable Pioneers in 1844, inspired by Owen, that the cooperative movement in the UK really got going. The Rochdale Society was a consumer cooperative of tradesmen who got together to open their own shops, selling food they could otherwise not afford. The society developed the now famous Rochdale Principles, which we'll talk about later. In 1861, 84 homes were built by the first housing co-op in Rochdale in the United Kingdom. A few years previous, between 1849 and 1852, Victor Emil Huber initiated the construction of 6 cooperative dwellings in Berlin. Cooperative housing also grew in popularity in response to damaged housing stock following World War I and World War II. And by the early 20th century, housing cooperatives were quite common throughout Europe. In Ireland, the formation of cooperative housing societies dates back to the 1950s. These were local, self-help, home ownership building cooperatives providing affordable homes for their members. In the 1960s and early 1970s, the growing number of young couples seeking access to home ownership in the expanding rural towns and new suburban areas resulted in more cooperatives of this type. Around 3,000 homes were built in the 1970s and 1980s by these types of cooperatives in various parts of the country. These projects generally consisted of 10 to 60 houses. Home ownership building cooperatives continue to be an aspect of cooperative housing development in Ireland. Cooperative Housing Ireland, or NABCO at the time, was formed in 1973 by representatives of local housing cooperatives as the National Representative Federation for the Cooperative Housing Movement in Ireland. The allocation of some state financial assistance in 1979 allowed us to open an office and to expand our promotion, information and other support services for housing cooperatives. Social rented housing cooperatives provide housing to members who are usually recruited from local authority waiting lists in the areas where co-ops are located. This is the kind of cooperative that you're joining. Home ownership cooperatives help members who have the financial capacity to build their own homes. Shared ownership cooperatives help members to purchase their own homes, while a portion of the interest in the property remains owned by the cooperative.